Ali's world is one of quiet, ordered precision, built upon the bedrock of his career as a civil engineer and the comforting rhythms of family life with his wife, Sarah, and their young daughter. He is a man who believes in foundations, in load-bearing walls, in the immutable logic of cause and effect. This carefully constructed reality is obliterated in a single, shattering moment on a rain-slicked road. A collision, a blur of metal and glass, and Ali awakens in a hospital to a new, unbearable universe. Sarah is gone, and he is the driver responsible. The narrative does not follow a linear path of grief but spirals inward, mirroring Ali's fragmented psyche. He is discharged into a life that feels like a haunted replica of his own. The family home is now a museum of absence, every object, a hairbrush, a half-read book, a child's drawing on the fridge, a landmine of memory. His daughter, withdrawn and wrapped in a silence he cannot penetrate, is a living reminder of his failure. Ali's professional competence deserts him, blueprints become incomprehensible scribbles, calculations swim before his eyes. The very principles of structure and safety that defined his life now mock him, for he has caused the ultimate structural collapse. Haunted by flashbacks that are less like memories and more like visceral, intrusive seizures, Ali begins to doubt the narrative of the accident itself. The official report is clear, yet his mind, in its desperate search for an escape from guilt, begins to offer alternative, shadowy details. Was there a shadow on the road? A fleeting glimpse of something else? This uncertainty becomes an obsession, a perverse lifeline. If the accident was not entirely his fault, perhaps he is not entirely a monster. He starts a solitary, compulsive investigation, retracing routes, questioning the scant witnesses, trying to piece together the seconds before impact as if solving an engineering problem could solve a moral one. This quest leads him into the city's underbelly and his own. He neglects his daughter, his work, his basic hygiene. He encounters characters on the margins, a cynical taxi driver who saw the aftermath, a homeless man who may have been nearby, a grief counselor whose platitudes feel like insults. Each interaction is a reflection of his own brokenness. He begins to see potential culprits everywhere, a speeding businessman, a negligent city worker, projecting his guilt onto the world. In his darkest hours, he even entertains the terrifying thought that Sarah, in some final, unspoken moment of despair, might have caused the crash herself. He would rather share the blame with a ghost than bear its full weight alone. The core of the story becomes a profound exploration of identity. The man known as Ali, the reliable husband, the careful father, the competent engineer, died in that crash as surely as his wife did. Who is left? He is now the man who killed his wife, a walking definition of a single act. His relationships warp under this new identity. Friends offer strained sympathy, their eyes unable to hide a flicker of judgment. His in-laws' grief curdles into quiet, unspoken accusation. His attempts to reconnect with his daughter are clumsy and painful. She needs a father, but he feels only like the agent of her mother's destruction. A turning point arrives not with a dramatic revelation about the crash, but with a slow, painful awakening to the present. During a mandated therapy session, he is asked not to describe the accident, but to describe Sarah's laugh. He finds he cannot. The memory is buried under the monolithic memory of her death. This horrifies him more than the crash details. He realizes his obsession with the how of the past is annihilating the who of the past, and the who of his daughter's future. In a moment of raw clarity, he understands that knowing the exact angle of impact will never tell him how to live with its consequences. The journey that follows is one of brutal, incremental reconstruction. There is no sudden forgiveness, from others or from himself. Instead, there is a shift from asking "why did this happen?" to "what do I do now?" He begins, haltingly, to perform the duties of living. He makes his daughter breakfast, even if they eat in silence. He returns to work on a small, simple project, relearning the feel of a pencil, the meaning of a measurement. He visits Sarah's grave not to plead for forgiveness, but to simply tell her about their daughter's day. These acts are not healing, but they are anchors. The story concludes without closure, but with a fragile sense of forward motion. Ali will never be the man he was. The grief is a permanent tenant in his life, a cold room he has learned to walk through. The question of the accident's precise mechanics remains unresolved, having finally lost its power over him. The true resolution lies in a quiet moment with his daughter. She does not offer absolution, a child should never bear that burden, but she takes his hand. It is a small, wordless gesture that does not rebuild the shattered past, but acknowledges a shared, damaged present. Ollie understands now that redemption, if it exists, is not a state to be achieved but a daily practice of bearing the unbearable, of building a new life atop the ruins of the old, not by ignoring the fault lines, but by learning to live alongside them. He is no longer an engineer building against chaos, but a man learning to inhabit it.